squeeze in 1997, which saw Alex eat dust. And to bring the story up to date, they got together again here on Friday, which led to Zanardi being excluded from first qualifying. Brian Herter starts on pole position. Alex Zanardi starts fifth. Will that magnetic attraction play its part again here at Laguna Seca? And a very warm welcome to the Honda Grand Prix of Monterey, featuring the Texaco Javelin 300. We are at Laguna Seca Raceway in the beautiful Monterey Bay area of California, and it's round 16 of the FedEx Championship Series. Hello and welcome from Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw. Looking forward to this spectacular race circuit, giving us another superb race. Jeremy, really is a good track, this one. We've enjoyed watching the action so far this weekend. The fastest man so far, though, Brian Herter.
And Brian Herter is a master at this racetrack. 4 times he has been here in the championship cars, never off the front row. He's the same in his 2 appearances at Indy Lights, also in Barber Saab, never been off the front row here.
Alongside him on the front row, the man who's won the last 2 races, going for the hat-trick today, Dario Franchitti. Well, there, the car's going round. Brian Herter, Franchitti then on the front row together. The second row sees Jimmy Vasser, last year's winner, and Greg Moore.
On row 3 of the grid is Alex Zanardi and Adrian Fernandez, both consistent performance everywhere we go. Row 4 of the grid, Alan Sir Jr. equals his best start of the season, and local hero Scott Pruitt.
On the 5th row, 2 Brazilians, Maurizio Guterman and Gilles de Ferran in the Walker Racing car. 6th row of the grid, JJ Leto, best performance for him on a road course, and Michael Andretti.
Row 7, 2 more Brazilians, Christian Fittipaldi, teammate to Michael Andretti, just 7 thousandths of a second slower, and rookie Tony Kanaan. Row 8 of the grid, Mark Blundell and Max Papis, the quickest of the Toyota drivers.
9th row of the grid, Richie Hearn, and alongside him the Canadian Paul Tracy. The 10th row of the grid, 4 times winner here, Bobby Rahal, and alongside him Patrick Carpentier.
Row 11, 2 more Brazilians, Helio Castro Neves and Andre Ribeiro, the second of the Penske cars. Row 12, Alex Barron and Robbie Gordon, 2 more Toyotas.
On the 13th row, it's Michel Jourdain Jr. and Arndt Meyer, and the final row of the grid sees a newcomer to the series, Vincenzo Sospiri. Alongside him is Dennis Vitolo. Sospiri stands in for PJ Jones. He is looking to be in this championship next year. Zanardi, though, remember, qualified 5th. Last time out in Vancouver, he wrapped up his 2nd driver's title, and he took his 3rd championship for the Chip Ganassi team. They won with Vasser a couple of years ago, now 2 wins for Zanardi. So he's done the job, but the battle for 2nd place in the championship is very close.
6 drivers there, from Vasser down to Pruitt, separated by just 20 points. You get 20 points for a win. A lot of money still at stake. Zanardi already clinched the $1 million, but $500,000 up for grabs for 2nd place.
Now then, let's take a look at this track, an 11-turn course. It is sees a lot of elevation change. They go up and down. The corkscrew, the famous corkscrew at 7 and 8. Let's hear the track from Danny Sullivan.
I love Laguna Seca. It is so great to be behind the wheel again. Tricky little section right here. Little right-hander, can't get on it too early. Right out to the edge of the track. Now this one's almost flat out here. About 118 miles an hour through there, right out to the edge of the track. Up into 5th, 6 gears. About 160 right there. Hard on the brake. Onto the old circuit now. Look at this shot. Going up here, I can't see anything where I'm going. Over the little brow, down through the dip. Now I'm climbing up the hill. Let's not forget, when we come to the top up here, this is where Alex Zanardi passed Brian Herter. Went down the inside on my left there, straight across, almost into that bush, down through the dirt, down out of the corkscrew, and past Brian Herter and went on to win 2 years ago here. I love Laguna Seca. This place is fabulous. What a pick.
Well, Danny Sullivan certainly enjoyed his run in Gilles de Ferran's spare car yesterday.
Yeah, it's been 3 years since he competed in this series regularly. He was amazed by the increase in horsepower and the braking capability. And look at that wonderful view there. The lake bed, this Laguna Seca Raceway, tremendous scenic hill in the hills above Monterey Bay. Wonderful setting for a racetrack.
There you can see the details on the track. 83 laps. Now, it's interesting to note that they are going to be pretty tight on fuel. You're on board with Michael Andretti there at the moment. Michael starts down in 12th position. so he's got some work to do. Fuel will be a concern. It is the sort of track that hopefully we won't get too many yellows, but there's been a lot of incidents in practice sessions this weekend. On board with Bobby Rahal, he starts down in 19th position, so the 4 times winner here really has got his work cut out, but of course it's his teammate Brian Herter that is on pole.
Yeah, and less than a second between these two on the grid, so it's his worst starting performance here for Rahal, but he's, don't count him out yet. Here though, Jimmy Vasser, he's won here at this racetrack last year, in contention again this weekend, Ben.
Yeah, starts in 3rd place. Alongside him, watch out for Greg Moore. Moore had an engine failure in practice in qualifying yesterday, but he had managed to put in a fast lap. Another onboard camera we're carrying today with Adrian Fernandez. Now he's in that battle for 2nd in the championship with the likes of Jimmy Vasser. Fernandez starts on the 3rd row alongside Alex Zanardi, but there, Frank Kitty, he'll be starting in 2nd place today. The car's then beginning to get some heat into the tyres, trying to build up some warmth. Temperature outside is certainly pretty high, but of course to get these tyres up to temperature requires a bit of work from the drivers. They will be getting the green flag next time around. They've still got about 1.5 miles, a little bit more to do here before they come round to the start-finish straight. And
just gorgeous conditions today. It's absolute crystal clear blue sky, really warm up there, I'd say 85, 90 degrees almost, and just fabulous conditions. A big crowd on hand, tremendous atmosphere here, Ben.
It is. It's a beautiful place for a race. It is spectacular. We've been around the track looking at various vantage points, and that's the great thing. The spectators really can see a great deal. Brian Herter in front, the famous corkscrew, a shot that's so well known throughout the world. If it's known for one thing, this track, it's the corkscrew, and there's an elevation change of some 11 stories between the highest point at the top of the corkscrew and the start-finish straight, which they're coming down towards now. They've got 2 more corners to go through here before they take the green, so they're just getting themselves into position. Remember, it's Herter, Franchitti front row, Vasser, Moore 2nd row, Zanardi on the 3rd row with Fernandez, Alonso Jr. and Scott Pruitt on the 4th row. Watch out for Alonso Jr. He's been in good shape here this weekend, particularly in Friday qualifying. Looked very confident this morning. Here we go then. We're about to start the first of 83 laps at Laguna Seca. They take the green flag and Herter gets away. Good start from Jimmy Vasser. Vasser takes 2nd from Franchitti. Franchitti trying to slot in, but Greg Moore's down his inside, and Franchitti just gets into the corner, I think, ahead of Moore. Each trying to go, and somebody's off. Michael Andretti. JJ Leto might have made contact with him, and Michael Andretti, oh no, it's gone wrong for him in the early stages this time. The last few races been in the later, and look, damage to JJ Leto's car.
Yeah, we've seen Leto's car going straight in. Michael Andretti, he's not so sure the steering's not done on that car, but a great start there by Brian Herter, local favourite here. As I said, he qualified sensationally well at this racetrack. He loves the place. It really suits his style, as he was saying yesterday. There is JJ Leto's car, the right front wheel, heavy damage there.
Yes, there's no way he's going to be able to continue in this race. He's trying to make it back to the pits, but he's got 2 miles to do that.
Yeah, that's a great shame. He'd really done a good job this weekend. He qualified well. That was 11th place, his best start on a road course this year, and he's been confident with that car all weekend. But there is Brian Herter, almost the first lap complete, and a good 7, 8, 10 car length lead over Jimmy Vasser.
Yes, he's beginning to pull away already. Herter still looking for that first victory. Remember, he's been getting pole positions, but no win. 2nd place Vasser, 3rd place Franchitti, then Moore, then Zanardi. This is what happened to Michael, trying to go around the outside of JJ. And JJ ran wide into him. Now, I had to say that it looks as though Michael had given him plenty of room going into that one.
Yeah, he was well out there on the outside of the corner, and plenty of room between him and the next cars, and obviously JJ got a little bit too heavy on the brakes. I think they're slid a little bit wide, as you say, and you can see Michael Andretti's car just snaps outside as there he is into the pits.
Yeah, boys, the problem with starting midfield. He started 12th. He said he had a car that was capable of getting on the first couple of rows, but he just didn't get the clear lap in, unfortunately. They've changed the tyres. He goes back out, but they are going to be struggling now for the rest of the afternoon. Beaten by Franchitti last time out, and look at, yeah, just the same there. Vasser following Herter with Franchitti in 3rd, Moore, then Zanardi. Keep an eye on Zanardi, running in 5th position at the moment, certainly pretty close behind Greg Moore in these early stages. Then there's a bit of a gap back to Adrian Fernandez in 6th, Alonso Jr. in 7th, Scott Pruitt, Gilles de Ferran and Maurizio Gugelmin are our top 10 so far. There though, the man we've got to keep an eye on. Somebody going very slowly there, Jeremy. Did we see who that was? I don't know whether that was a back marker. The leaders are all there, so it must have been.
Unless it was JJ Leto still limping back to the pits, perhaps.
It may well have been, actually, yes. I think he's almost made it, but it's taken him a long time to get back to pit lane. Look at the lead. Herta's lead 1.6 seconds on that last lap, so he's already opening up an advantage. A 1 minute 12.8, so 4 seconds slower than the qualifying time. Pretty much as we expected. There's a big difference here between qualifying and running the car in race trim, and at the moment you're right on board with the new champion, Alex Zanardi, chasing after Greg Moore. He's also a father. His son was born in the early part of the week. Unfortunately, Alex didn't get back quite in time to Italy to see the birth, but he is a very proud father indeed, and now he's pushing hard in this race, trying to pick up some more places, running in 5th position in these early stages. Up over the hill, down into the corkscrew. He drops down the hill there, the wheel comes off the ground, the right front, no problem for him. Herta is our early race leader. Vassar chasing, Franchitti in 3rd place. Trying to repair the car.
Here they are, the right front suspension, a heavy damage. That wheel was really hanging off there, but they're obviously trying to fix it and change that tie rod there, probably the upper suspension A-arm as well, and try and get back in the race. He's already, of course, 4 laps down, but he just wants some more miles. I think it's not been confirmed by the team, but the rumour has it that Carl Hogan has picked up the option that he had on JJ Leto's contract for next year, so they just want to get some more miles in if they possibly can.
Now then, you're watching the battle for 2nd, 3rd place really. Franchitti's in 3rd. There's race leader Brian Herta in the Shell car. Same as last year, he's pulled away in the initial stages here from pole position. 2nd place, there he is, Jimmy Vassar, Alex Zanardi's teammate, the 1996 champion, who has enjoyed the relationship with Alex Zanardi over the last couple of years. There's Franchitti in the green and white, then Greg Moore, then Alex Zanardi. Now look, here's a good battle going on here between Adrian Fernandez in 6th position and Al Unser Jr. Now we mentioned him earlier on in the broadcast. Really has been going well this weekend. On Friday he said he just grabbed this car by the scruff of the neck and threw it around to set a time, and it was an impressive time as well.
It certainly was, and that certainly is not the Unser style. He is one of the smoother drivers on the circuit and not known for manhandling the car. Not a good qualifier. He's only very few poles in his whole career. He's got 6 or 7 poles. Where's my records here? 7 poles out of 252 races, so it's not a very high strike rate for poles, but given the race car, and he's good, but he suddenly realized, or begun series is so competitive, you need to qualify up the front. You need to take the chances in qualifying. Track position is key, and he has that here this weekend. He's running 7th right now. That's pretty much in contention, and you can see, I think, these sets, he seems to be a little bit quicker than Adrian Fernandez, but again, track position, you can't get past Adrian.
Not yet, no, and they will be taking things a little bit cautiously in the early laps. Fuel consumption worries to think about, and they'll be trying to run the engine as lean as possible, even in these early stages, because they know that it's going to be a tough race on fuel consumption. Tyre wear is also an issue in terms of driving style and how hard you push, particularly in the early part of a stint. Although the drivers say these tyres are much more consistent than they used to be, and you really can push hard from the word go, there still could be little differences you may be able to gain towards the end of a stint if your tyres are lasting better than the opposition. So Al will be looking for that anyway. He's on Goodyear tyres, remember, and in fact he's the leading Goodyear runner in this race at the moment.
And talking of Goodyear runners, just looking back down, Michael Andretti is on the course. He is in last place, but he's actually lapping around the same time as the race leader, Brian Herter. 1 minute 11.6 for Herter, 1 minute 11.8 for Michael Andretti. The only problem is he's more than a minute behind.
Well, Michael went out in that incident with JJ Leto, of course. Michael went to go around the outside of Leto into turn number 2. This area you're looking at now, obviously a potential overtaking area, especially from the start of the race. Always involves a little bit of risk, but Andretti gave JJ plenty of room, and for some reason JJ drifted wide into Andretti's car, and that's JJ Leto effectively out of the race. Michael Andretti, as Jeremy says, now right down at the back of the field. Not much prospect of doing anything. Let's hear now from JJ.
Michael.
Well, it didn't happen between us, you know. It happened with Christian. He got a brain failure, you know, and just run into everybody, you know, and was out of control. Went over the curves and hit me towards Michael, you know. So Michael just hit me on the right front, and you know that was it. You know, we bent the suspension, and Christian basically spoiled Michael's race as well.
Now, was that a case of Christian trying to force the issue, or were you trying to pick up a position?
No, we went up. I mean, we were just clean with Michael side by side going into the first corner, you know, like everybody else, you know, just clean thing, you know, and, well, you know, you can't win the race in the first corner. You know, he just rushed in, you know, and lost the control and went over the curves and hit me, you know, and then I just hit Michael.
All right, tough end of the day. Thanks.
Well, there's a good example of watching one view from an onboard camera doesn't always tell you the whole story.
Yeah, we perhaps owe JJ a little bit of an apology there. Perhaps we couldn't see what Christian Fittipaldi would do, but certainly it would appear to be a surprising mistake that he would make a man of his experience, and as he sets us straight, it was Christian Fittipaldi that set off that chain reaction.
Well, it's ironic, isn't it? Christian Fittipaldi, of course, teammate to Michael Andretti, and he's now effectively been responsible for his teammate dropping to the back. Where is Christian, by the way? Well, he's in 11th position. That's just in the points. Remember, they score points right the way down to 12th position in this series. Tony Kanaan is in that important 12th place. Mark Blundell running 13th. Tracy 14th. Pap is 15th. Robbie Gordon is down there in 16th. Then behind them, Bobby Brayhall, Ribeiro, Castroneves, Richie Hearn, Patrick Carpentier, and the rest of the field, Vincenzo Sospiri. Remember, making his debut here this weekend. Well, he's running quite a long way down the order. He's in 25th position. Watching now, Greg Moore running in 4th place. Still, these three cars have stayed very close together through this opening stint so far. It's Herter with the advantage. And let's just check his lead as he goes across the line. Up to 3.4 seconds now.
Yeah, just edging out ever so slightly, a tenth or two per lap, I'd say, the last 4 or 5 laps. And they're really much keeping pace with each other. Both of the top 2 cars there, 1 minute 11.7 that time around. And certainly Vassar looks pretty comfortable in 2nd place. Then is Frank Hiddy, and there is Moore under pressure from Zanardi. That battle is one of the closest on the field throughout the field, really, for 4th and 5th positions.
Zanardi, yes, has been very close to the back of that player's car throughout this race so far. And Zanardi now beginning to wind down, perhaps, his involvement. That was just a tear-off visor you saw flip up into the air. No problem there. The driver's just ripping those off to get a clearer view of what's ahead. Herter is race leader after 9 of 83 laps have been completed here at Laguna Seca. Welcome back. Adrian Fernandez is not race leader. He's down in 6th position at the moment. And Fernandez still under pressure from Al Unser Jr. Unser Jr. in 7th position. Our race leader, just to remind you, after 11 laps have been completed, is Brian Herter. Jimmy Vasser in 2nd by some 3.4 seconds. Then Frank Hiddy, Moore and Zanardi. not much change in the top positions. As I mentioned, this early phase of the race is really about getting into the rhythm of the track, something the drivers have talked. Oh, Fernandez was a bit sideways coming out of that one, but just trying to get into the rhythm of the track, looking after the car and looking after the tyres.
Yeah, and since lap 4, we're now on lap 12. Brian Herta's laps have varied by a total of just over 0.2 of 1 second, so very, very consistent pace set by the race leader. And the gap now 3.3 seconds, come down actually by a tenth or two the last couple of laps, but 1 minute 11.9 that time for Brian Herta. He lost a couple of tenths there, that's interesting.
Well, it's very early stages, 83 laps and 71 laps still to go here with this 2.2 mile track. Let's go on board with Bobby Rahal for a moment, and he lies behind Robbie Gordon and Max Papis. The two Toyota-powered cars are ahead of him. Look at the record though for Bobby, 4 times the winner here. He's led most laps around this track and he's finished 7th or better in 12 out of the 15 races. Very impressive record once again for the man who will be retiring at the end of the season and taking over more fully, if you like, the reins of running the team. He does that anyway, but of course next year he'll be there in the pit lane and calling the shots to the drivers to a certain extent.
Yes, that's right, and interested to see how he get on with that. He loves competing, does Bobby Rahal, and he is stuck there in 17th place. That is the car of Robbie Gordon ahead of him, one of the Reynard Toyotas. Improving Toyotas, I have to say. They've made big strides this year. Has TRD in development of this RV8D engine, which was introduced for the first time at Cleveland, and it's pretty close on a par now with the other 3 engine manufacturers, Ford, Honda and Mercedes. It is, however, pretty heavy. It's probably 70 or 80 pounds overweight compared to most of the other contenders, and that is a handicap.
Yeah, and this is a good example of how much more competitive they are, Jeremy. You've got Bobby there, and ahead of him were the 2 Toyota cars of Gordon and Papis, and then there was Paul Tracy ahead of them. So you had a Honda car at the head of that little train, 2 Toyotas, and then the Ford of Bobby Rahal, and a very, very evenly matched contest it seemed to be. Back with Adrian Fernandez now, 6th position for the Mexican, the man who's chasing down that 2nd place in the championship, and Fernandez currently lies in 3rd place in the series, but he's only some 6 points behind Jimmy Vasser. Fernandez chasing after what is a prize of some $500,000 for the 2nd place in the championship, so there really is a lot to go for. On the other hand, of course, the Ganassi team would love to get a 1-2 result. Although they've won the last 3 championships, they've never had a 1-2. So that would really be something to finish off their relationship, perhaps with Zanardi, as we think, going to Formula 1. It would be the perfect way to end the relationship.
It certainly would, and anything I think that Zanardi can do to assist that, he will be trying to do. They are good friends, as well as good close rivals on the racetrack, and both very, very talented indeed. Vasser has really made a name for himself over his last couple of years. He won that championship fair and square there, however, is Mauricio Gugelmin, who was running in 10th place out of the car.
Yeah, and it's all over for Maurizio. Can't see a clear problem. Apparently the water temperature was up to some 130 degrees, we're just hearing, and that's the engine has overheated as a result, obviously. Maurizio out of the race, so he is our 2nd retirement in this race. We lost JJ Leto a little while ago, and now Maurizio Gugelmin is out of the race as well. Pac West still having a tough season, aren't they? Mark Blundell currently lying down in 12th position at the moment, and everybody down there just moving up one because of Gugelmin's demise. Now then, there is Jimmy Vasser. Vasser running in 2nd place. The gap between himself and Brian Herta, some 3.4 seconds. Let's go on board with Jimmy for a moment. Let's take another look at this lap of Laguna Seca. 175 miles an hour, hard on the brakes, down to turn 2. Down to about 55 miles an hour, 2nd gear here. Just waiting to get on the power, then at last he can accelerate. Down to turn 3, 4th gear here. Accelerating hard towards turn number 4. This is taken in 5th, nearly flat out, just a little lift, then accelerating hard again up to about 170 miles an hour under the bridge. Brake hard into the left-hander.
The hill now towards turn 6 underneath the Texaco bridge here. This next corner, a rising corner, with a little dip there right on the apex, and and that curve on the outside, that is what Dario Franchitti was on in qualifying on Friday. He was the provisional pole sitter and spun off. Here though, the corkscrew turn plunges down. You can't see the road there as you go over the crest of that hill. You're down the equivalent of 5 stories in height in a matter of about 50 feet. An astonishing corner.
And then through the last couple of turns, turn 10 here, fast right-hander, then it's hard on the brakes for turn number 11, again down to second gear, slowest corner really on the track, and then hard on the power, and you can see the wheel spin. Can you see how the steering was moving, the back end of the car was moving around under power, and that just shows you how much power these things have got. They really are incredible. The turbocharged 2.65 litre engine, all V8s of course, pumping out approaching 900 horsepower, and Jimmy just keeping that under control as he came out of the final corner. He still lies in second position, Herta still with a 3-second advantage. So 16 lap Vassar lying in second position by 3.7 seconds, then Dario Franchitti. You're looking at the moment though at the Budweiser sponsored car, as that's pretty clear, of Richie Hearn, and Richie's lying down in 19th place. They've really struggled to get this car to work on the road courses this year. He's the only Swift chassis on the Firestone tyres. He's always suffered a bit of understeer with the car, and to be honest, everybody's got understeer here. So he was telling me earlier today he's got like double understeer.
Yes, quite, and that is another team with a pretty slim budget. They've done hardly any testing at all, so they've got a good package here. They've got a very good young driver, but he hasn't perhaps been able to maximise the opportunity that is presented to him. He's competitive, very competitive on occasion. He was, what, 4th on the grid at Detroit, and he's been quick in several other races as well, including at Michigan, but he's not able to do that on a consistent basis. Now that, I think, is just simply down to budget.
Yes, that's right. So it was a 5th place finish at Michigan. That was a superb effort indeed. And he had a 3rd place qualifying performance there as well. So it's certainly coming together for Richie Hearn, and they're looking at a bigger program, but with the same team again next season. Hasn't been an awful lot of news in terms of driver market changes. Let's just see there Michel Jourdain down in the pit lane. So he was running quite near the back, but looks as though that could be the end of his day. As you can see, best finish here, 22nd position last year. He hasn't had much experience here, of course, so it looks as though Michel Jourdain in trouble. But just coming back to the driver market, of course, everybody wondering what the moves are going to be, who's going where. I don't think we've really learnt anything particularly new this weekend.
No, except that PJ Jones will be with Patrick Racing next year. He's been in their pit for much of the weekend. Of course, he agreed to step down from Dan Gurney's All-American Races team for this weekend in order that Dan Gurney can prepare for next year, and that is why Vincenzo Sospiri is now even driving the number 98 car this weekend.
Yes, make a mention of Vincenzo Sospiri. Good to see the Italian getting a chance at the top level of American motorsport. He has raced in the IRL series in the past, and of course from Europe he was the 1995 Formula 3000 champion, and he has a lot of friends and support in the United Kingdom. I know he raced in the United Kingdom for a good few years, and now he's got a chance over here, but he's finding this racetrack quite a lot to get used to. It is a very demanding track. He's trying to get used to the car and the track all in one go, and I think finding that quite tough. Looking at race leader Brian Herta and Vincenzo Sospiri that we're talking about, he lies down in 23rd place at the moment.
There is Brian Herta. The last 2 laps though have been relatively slow, 12.3 and 12.2. He's lost 4 or 5 tenths over the pace he was setting. Jimmy Vassar has now narrowed the gap to 2.6 seconds. That was 2 consecutive laps there for Herta in the 12s. That's pretty interesting. You just talked about some of the guys at the back of the field. Vincenzo Sospiri's last lap was a 13.7, and behind him now is Michael Andretti. His best lap was a 12.2, exactly the same as Brian Herta.
So down the hill, lap 21 completed, or coming up to be completed, and just to let you know, we're looking at about lap 26, 27 for them to make their first pit stop, perhaps 28. They are going to be tight on fuel though, and that's what they're thinking about already in this race, trying to lean the mixture off. There are those 3. They've been tied together, Franchitti, Moore and Zanardi, throughout this race so far, and enjoying quite a tussle, but no place changes. Dennis Vitolo's off, no great surprise, and he's got a fire in the back there as well.
I'm not sure where he is on the racetrack. Actually, I'm looking out of our booth here in turn 4. Can't see him, but there is Yes, he must be on the exit of turn 3 on the inside of the track. They spun off to the inside, but looks like facing the wrong way. And the full course caution, we believe, is coming out, looking out of the booth here. Can't actually see the flags at the moment, but we believe that the full course caution flags will come out. Pace car will be. That certainly is a pretty dangerous location. And there in the pits is Andre Ribeiro, one of the Penske's.
Yes, and we will see some pit stops now, because this is just coming into the area of the race that the first pit stop was due anyway. Sometimes this race has been run without any yellow flags, but not on this occasion. The first one for Dennis Vitolo spin. Now then, are we going to see race leader Brian Herter be the first to come into the pits? He led in Portland and they've called a funny fuel strategy. In comes Suspiri, but he was nearly a lap down. I think it looked to me as though Herter was coming in. Yes, look at this. All of the leaders are coming in. Herter first in, followed by Vassar, and then no doubt we'll see Franchitti, Moran, Zanardi. And this is where the crews have to do the business. They've been practicing this morning, all of them up and down the pit lane, putting in that extra bit of practice for a fast top.
Yes, Cole Selva on the right front of the car, waving him out there. There goes Brian Herter. Larry Ellett, L.E. Ellett is the crew chief on the car. There goes Jimmy Vassar, and there goes Pruitt, and there goes all sorts of cars, all sorts of near misses there. But it looks like Herter has made it out of the pits, and we've seen how difficult it is to make passes on this racetrack. So pit stops absolutely crucial.
Yeah, and I don't think actually that amongst the top 3 there's been any change. That's pretty amazing. They've all, oh no, Zanardi's got ahead of Moore. Zanardi has got ahead of Moore, so that's interesting. Oh, but we've heard that Zanardi may have hit a tyre in the pit lane coming out, and he will have to serve a penalty for that.
Yeah, that's an automatic drive-through penalty. He will have to come into the pits under green flag conditions and make another stop and maintain that 60 miles an hour speed limit in the pit lane.
So he may have gained a place for the moment, but he's going to have to give it up, and he's going to have to give up virtually all the places. Zanardi in trouble now. If he's been found guilty of hitting a tyre, that's effectively the end of his race. And Brian Herter going well here. Comes round, Brian Herter is race leader. The yellow is still applied, but the pace car lights are out, so they will go green as they come around to start finish at this time. Vassar second, Franchitti in third, Zanardi in fourth, but we are hearing he's probably got a drive-through penalty, but that will have to be done once they go green. They don't do it under yellow conditions. He has to serve his penalty once they're up to full racing speed. So we'll probably expect to see Zanardi come in at the end of the next lap, and that's going to drop him down the order. Next up is Greg Moore, then Adrian Fernandez, then Al Unser Jr., Scott Pruitt, Gilles de Ferran, and Tony Kanaan. So if we look at that first round of pit stops, Jeremy, who's gained, who's lost?
Yeah, not many changes at all. We talked about that one with Zanardi and Moore. Farther down I see that Kanaan has moved up one place. Christian Fittipaldi actually lost 3 positions. He fell from 10th to 13th. So Kanaan, Tracy and Blundell, the beneficiaries there. Robbie Gordon, however, he came past okay, but he didn't come past the next lap around, so I don't know where the second of the MCI cars is.
Right.
Here we go, though. Ready for green flag again.
Here we go. Brian Herter gets on the power hard coming out of the final turn. We're hearing, oh, look at Alonso Jr. Jr.'s got a chance to get past Fernandez now. Great restart that from Alonso Jr. And he's made the move even before they get down to turn number 2. And look at this. Zanardi's got past Franchitti. Zanardi gets past Franchitti. That looked like a pretty brave piece of overtaking. We didn't quite catch it, but that means that Zanardi's up to 3rd. And we're hearing that apparently he didn't actually clip a tyre in the pit lane. He may have just got away with it. It looked close, and apparently he may be all right. So no black flag has been given to Zanardi. He is in a genuine 3rd place, and he's just taken that from Dario Franchitti.
Yeah, great move then by him, and double whammy there. He doesn't have a penalty, and he gets a position on the racetrack as well. So great work by Alex Zanardi, and great work once again by his team to get him out ahead of one position, and then he makes another one on the racetrack.
Alonso Jr., the other one to gain on that restart. He's now up into 6th place. I wonder how fast he'll be able to close up to the back of Greg Moore. You can just see them in the back of the picture, actually. And look at this, these two now, the 2 Ganassi teammates are hard at it, battling for 2nd position. You remember what happened here last year on the slowdown lap?
On the slowdown lap, they collided and spun off in turn 9. That was fairly remarkable. They were so happy that Zanardi had won the championship and Vassar had won the race. They were so too busy congratulating each other, and they collided wheels and both spun off the racetrack. Chip didn't mind at all.
No, he didn't bother. I think he would mind if they took each other off this early in the race, though. We're on lap number 26 out of 83. So 1/3 distance just about completed, or nearly 1/3 distance. And Zanardi there up into 3rd position. He started in 5th. He's taken the work of his team to move up one place, and then his own work to move up another position. That was past Franchitti on the restart. So once again, the combination of driver and team is what has won him races, so many races already in this form of racing. His tally up to 14 victories in the 3 years he's been racing here, and now he's got to try and find a way past his teammate, Jimmy Vasser. Now we'll also keep an eye on the lap times. Brian Herter, of course, had a 3.4 second, 3.5 second lead really when they stopped for the first round of stops, and again he seems to be pulling away. Oh, Rahul's off, and somebody else involved there.
Yeah, he was dicing with, well, ahead of him was Max Papis, right behind him was Richie Hearn last time around. That was the battle for 14th, 15th and 16th. There is Rahul. He obviously beats the car. He's lost the fire there, stalled the engine. He needs a push start.
Yeah, I think it was Richie Hearn, as you say. The red car we saw in the picture, that must have been Richie's. He's desperate for a push, but remember the rules over here. You might think, well, why aren't the marshals running out and giving him a push? They're not allowed to. It's only the safety workers of carts who go to each and every race, and they come along on one of those big pickup trucks. They're the only people that are allowed to push the cars. That's a rule that's been brought in for safety's sake. They are effectively professional safety workers, and they know exactly what they're doing, and that's what he has to wait for. Here's the in-car camera, Jeremy. Let's see if we can spot what happened. He got on the outside of one of the Toyota cars, and they made contact through the kink.
Yeah, that's curious. And there's Richie Hearn as well, who was also involved. But no, that's somewhat strange. Going on as they came past here, the Toyota car was ahead of Bobby Rahal, so not quite sure what happened. It was Max Papis.
Max Papis.
And what happened there, tough to say, but certainly you could see out of the corner of the screen there came the MCI car on the inside, and collision, and off goes Bobby Rahal, and also involved is Richard Hill. Here, this maybe this is it. Here we are on board with Richard Hill going up the hill. There's the two side by side ahead of them, and Rahal cuts across the grass on that inside, that very slight kink on turn 7. He's really pushed onto that by Max Papis, and kind of one of those things really.
He did well, didn't he? Richie Hearn did well first to avoid it and then not stall the engine, because he had everything sort of locked up. Bobby can't believe how long it's taking to get this thing back on track, and in fact they haven't put out the yellow. We're still under green flag race conditions here, and there the battle between Greg Moore and Alonso Jr. for 5th position. Two Mercedes powered cars, one on Goodyear's, that's the car of Alonso Jr., the other on Firestone's for Greg Moore, and this is proving to be a good battle between these two. Behind them, Adrian Fernandez still. Remember, he's battling for 2nd in the series. Then Scott Pruitt, his teammate, Gilles de Ferran in 9th, Tony Kanaan 10th, Paul Tracy 11th, and Christian Fittipaldi is in 12th position. So got a few little breaks now. Herter 1.3 seconds ahead of the two Ganassi cars, and then another little gap back of about the same to Franchitti, Moore and Alonso Jr.
And there is that battle there for 4th, 5th and 6th, and it is Franchitti at the head of the queue there. There is Greg Moore touring in the blue car, and the red and white Marlboro Penske Mercedes engine of Alonso Jr.
Well, these guys just holding station, looking for the little chink in the armour, looking for a mistake more than anything from the car ahead to take advantage. But for the moment, it's still Brian Herter who leads here at Laguna. His race leader, Jimmy Vasser, still though having to keep an eye on his mirrors. He's got his teammate Alex Zanardi right behind him, and Zanardi looks to be wanting to get past. I have to say, Herter hasn't pulled away quite so much in this stint as he did in the first stint.
That's right, Ben, and they're also lapping a good bit slower than they were in the first stint. They're only doing mid-12s now. They were doing high 11s before, mid to high 11s, so they cut their pace. That is because they are trying to save fuel. That pit stop was a little bit earlier than they wanted to. They've got to stretch this fuel load as long as they can. They don't want to make a splash and go pit stop at the end of this race unless they absolutely have to.
On board with Alex Zanardi then, chasing after Jimmy Vasser. This climb is very steep. If you have to walk up here, I tell you, you know about it, especially in this heat. These cars just pull their way up to the top of the hill without a problem, then plunge back down the hill. The driver just having to correct the slide a little bit, then through this dauntingly fast left-hander, and then through another fast right-hander, which sees them past the pit lane entry and down towards a tricky, technical left-hander that leads on to start-finish straight. You can see Vasser's car just sliding. They are really on the limit.
They are, and that's a crucial corner. There is Mark Blundell, though, in the pit, so problems for the Motorola, the other pack West car. That's a great shame for those guys. But that turn 11 there, crucial. That's the fastest part of the racetrack coming up thereafter. You need to make a good exit to that corner and perhaps try and make a pass down to turn 2.
That's right, no pass for Zanardi so far though. He sits behind Vassar, waiting for the moment when perhaps he can just take the advantage. We saw Blundell out. It really has been a terrible day for Pac West again, hasn't it? Been a tough season. And of course we've talked several times about the fact that they started this year as one of the potential favourites for a championship from either driver really, Guterman or Blundell. They were both so well up at the end of last season. They made that choice to go for last year's car at the start of the year, and that cost them dearly, not only in the fact that it wasn't as competitive, but the fact that they lost development time on the new car. And I know for sure that they're actually going to be one of the first teams to be testing next year's car.
That's absolutely right, Ben. In fact, the first of the new Reynard chassis 001 is due for delivery on October 31st. That's actually the day before the final race of this season.
I don't think they're going to make the same mistake twice, do you?
I don't think they are. They had some concerns over the reliability of that new IC108D engine from Ilmor Engineering, Mercedes-Benz, which really proved unproven, as you say, but it's not really that so much. They're just behind the 8 ball. They haven't been able to get the cars to the liking of the drivers, and they're really totally at a loss to explain why.
Yes, it's been a torrid season for the Pac West team, and torrid day here too. Both cars out already then, so Mark Blundell joins the list of retirements. Let me tell you who they are. JJ Leto, we lost right at the start in an incident with Michael Andretti. We lost Maurizio Guterman some 11 laps later. Then Dennis Vitolo, he's out of the race. Michel Jourdain, we lost him 3 laps ago. Bobby Rahal is running, but he's quite a long way down. Mark Blundell now goes out as well. And Robbie Gordon's had problems. He's had some refueling troubles apparently, and he is down in 22nd position. Vincenzo Sospiri is the next car. He's still running. He's running in 21st position at the moment, and still trying to learn his trade, if you like, this weekend. And getting used to driving one of these champ cars in race conditions. Only a little bit of testing last week, so he's really been thrown in at the deep end.
About 45 laps, I think, at Portland International Raceway. Came down here and had only sort of 20 or so laps on Friday morning, and they had problems through the weekend with that Eagle chassis. They had a oil leak yesterday morning, so he's really had very few laps at all, and boy, he really has been thrown in the deep end. This is such a competitive field. We had 20 cars, I think, within 1 second on the grid, and it's just so close.
It is, it's amazing. Bobby Rahal was astonished to find himself down in 19th place, a second behind Herta. Castro Neves is off. Helio Castro Neves, now we've seen him do that a few times this weekend, I have to say. That is down at turn 2. That's a hairpin corner that they go into after the start-finish line. They go through turn 1, which is actually a kink over the start-finish line, and then turn number 2 here, the hairpin, where we saw Michael Andretti and Leto make contact, and there's a local yellow at the moment because the car has spun off. We haven't had a report yet of a full course yellow, but I think it will have to go full course yellow in order to retrieve that car. Looks as though the engine's dead, and even if it isn't, quite often the cars get beached down there. The bottom of the car, which runs only a few millimetres off the road surface. Of course, if you get on the rough stuff, then the wheels end up in the air and you can't go anywhere. It doesn't look like Helio's going anywhere.
No, it doesn't. He has lost the fire on that engine. And you talked about Mark Blundell being out of the race. Actually, here he comes, just past us. Here he is, already several laps down and out of contention. But he is back in the race, and we'll see whether he can carry on. But there again is that beach car, as you say, of Helio Castro Neves. And here, though, is the race leader, Brian Herta. And right behind him, really, those two Target Chip Ganassi cars, just over 1 second behind. Not much at all.
Well, it's an interesting tussle, this, isn't it? What a fantastic encounter. Herta just with that seconds advantage over the 2 Ganassi cars that have been so dominant over the last few years. Can Herta hold on? We'll have to wait and see. Welcome back to Eurosport's live coverage from Laguna Seca as Herta continues to lead. Herta's advantage, 1.4 seconds as 36 laps have been completed. Jimmy Vasser is second. Zanardi still third and still right behind his teammate. There's been no more than about 2 car lengths between these two ever since that last pit stop when Zanardi managed to squeeze past Dario Franchitti on the run down to the second corner. And Zanardi really has kept it close, but they haven't really dropped Franchitti, Moore or Unser either.
No, that's true. I think everybody is in fuel conservation mode at the moment. None of them wants to push too hard. There is Franchitti, there is Moore, and there is Alonso Jr. Not too far behind him. Also, the two Patrick Racing cars with Adrian Fernandez just ahead of Scott Pruitt.
It is great to see the cars, and maybe we haven't seen much overtaking yet, but again, Zanardi, he's in playing out there, isn't he? He is just playing and just moving around in Vassar's mirrors.
Well, he's not playing, he wants past, that's what he's looking at. He's hoping that Jimmy's going to move over and let him go, but you know, second place is important for Jimmy Vasser. He wants to finish second, he wants to get the most points, he wants second in the championship.
That's right, but Zanardi would just love to find a way past if possible. And they can see Brian Herter just that little bit further up the road. Interesting relationship between Herter and Zanardi. Oh, there you can see Zanardi trying quite hard. The car sliding quite a lot through turn number 4, just past our commentary box into turn 5 here as they climb up the hill. Herter and Zanardi have had their moments, as we talked about earlier on, but good to say that the relationship between them still remains amicable, and they both have good things to say about each other. They both respect each other's driving immensely. They may have had their incidents, but they also respect each other's ability, and it would be fun actually to see whether we get a race between them in the latter stages of this.
Yes, certainly would. There is a great amount of respect between the both of them. Certainly Herter was saying, you know, if Alex Zanardi goes to Formula 1 next year, which everybody presumes he is going to do, then the series is going to miss Alex Zanardi. He is one of the best drivers in the world today, and if he's not here, they can't beat him. And these drivers, they know you're only as good as the drivers you beat, so they want to beat the very best, and Alex Zanardi is one of the very best. There's another man who may be one of the very best in the years to come, Tony Kanaan for Tasman Motorsports. He's been all over the back end of Gilles de Ferran. Has to drop back a little bit on that lap, as I said, but he is running now in 10th place and doing a very good job indeed for Steve Horn.
Yes, he's had a couple of 4th place finishes so far this year, and good performance in his rookie season. He had a 4th place finish on a road course at Portland earlier in the championship, so he likes this type of track, and at Road America as well. And in fact, he's won here at Laguna Seca in the past in the Indy Lights Championship. He was on pole position for both these Indy Lights races and won one of them.
That's right, and I think last weekend he had a podium position going at Vancouver before he's hit behind by Paul Tracy, but there is his teammate from last year, Helio Castro-Neves. He was second in the Indy Lights Championship for the Tasman team, and now has moved up into the championship cars with Tony Bettenhausen's team Alimax.
Yes, and remember, Helio Castro-Neves lies second to Kanaan in the Rookie of the Year points battle. There's some 25 points between them at the moment. Kanaan's had the advantage in the last few races, no doubt about that, but as we saw in Vancouver, Helio Castro-Neves has proved his ability as he led that race until they ran out of fuel. So embarrassing for them. Certainly not a good day, but still, Castro-Neves has to come back and do it again.
That's right. They actually changed the ECN, the engine control unit, on that car just before the start of the race, but after a couple of pace laps, and they didn't reset the fuel meter, so that gallon or so that he used up on that first pace lap ended up being absolutely crucial.
There you are with the rookie point standings this year, the 25-point gap between Kanaan and Castro-Neves. Then JJ Leto on 12 points, but he's not going to score today, sadly. And Alex Barron on 1. Remember, Alex was the man driving the Eagle chassis who led in Vancouver last week, and it was a genuine lead he held. Michael Andretti was really struggling to get past him.
Yeah, he couldn't pull him at all. It was a great performance by the young rookie driver there, and this Eagle chassis really is pretty good indeed, and as we talked about earlier on, Toyota definitely making strides towards the front. Shouldn't be too long before they're very, very close to the pace indeed.
There's a little look at Kanaan's race so far. Started 14th, currently in 10th place. But look at that, 10th position, but he's only 9 seconds behind the leader. How's that? Not bad, showing how competitive this series is. You've got the top 10 cars separated by less than 10 seconds. And Kanaan has the car of Gilles de Ferran in his sights, trying to find a way past him. There's Vassar and Zanardi, still absolutely together. Herter's got away a little bit more. He's now up to 2 seconds ahead. There is Brian, very smooth, controlled, just looking at keeping that gap up. There is a view of Vincenzo Sospiri, by the way, driver in for the first time in this weekend's race, taking over from PJ Jones, as Dan Gurney, who runs the team, looks towards next year, looking towards which driver should he run in the series next year, and they need to get some results to continue this Eagle chassis building program.
Yeah, and certainly Suspiri has a very good pedigree, of course. He won the Formula 3000 Championship 2 or 3 years ago. This year, he has a 5-race winning streak going in the International Sports Racing Series. That's in the JB Racing Ferrari 333 SP. So he's used to winning races this year. He's not used to running at the back of the pack, but nor is he used to a 900 horsepower turbocharged engine.
No, very, very different. And also this track, talking to the drivers, they say it is one of the more difficult to learn. Various areas where you can gain or lose a lot of speed, and Suspiri taking a bit of time to just dial himself in to the pace. Now then, we're looking at pit stops coming up in about 10 laps or so, but they will have to make a third stop by our reckoning. Unless they get a fairly decent portion of yellow flag running, then it's going to be tight for them. Perhaps if they lean right off, they will try and risk it, but it really would be a big risk. Zanardi again putting his car to the inside. It wasn't an attempt to overtake, he was too far back, he knew that, but again just positioning his car to let Vassar know that he's right in position to pass if Vassar should make the slightest mistake up over the hill. Listen to the engine working hard down through the gears here, and then back on the power down the hill. You can see the lead that he's got as they come beneath the Honda bridge there. It's might be a Honda bridge, but it's a Ford that's leading this one at the moment, the Ford Cosworth power unit in the hands of Brian Herter. Then we've got 3 Honda powered cars with the 2 Ganassi cars and Frank Kitty. Then we've got the 2 Mercedes-Benz powered cars with Greg Moore and Alonso Jr. So pretty even in terms of engines just right now.
Yeah, and the first of the Toyotas, which is Max Papis, is running in 13th place. And Toyota, you know, they've really made big strides. We've already talked about that. They've been in the points on a consistent basis this year, and in the last 7 races, they've scored points on all but one occasion. That's a definite sign of how much improvement they have made this year.
Herter really has opened up a little advantage as they look towards the next set of stops. Now I wonder if he's decided purposefully in the first part of this stint not to push quite so hard, look after the tyres a bit more, and then in the latter part try and open up the advantage that he'll need before he goes into the pits. That's fairly crucial. We'll just have to see whether that happens on this occasion. Herter then, plunging downhill. What a wonderful view of this Laguna Seca racetrack. It looks brown and dry around here, but in fact a lot of greenery around as well. We're just seeing a green car for that matter, pull over beside us here on the commentary box. It's not that significant because it's the car of Michel Jourdain, and he was already a long way down the order.
Yeah, he was running in 20th place and just pulled off on the inside of the track. Pretty smart move by the young Mexican. There is a hole in the wall there, and a bit like the marshals will be able to pull that car back and out of the way.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. If they're allowed to do that, we'll just have to wait and see. He has moved right off the track. It's not really in a dangerous position, although if a car loses it coming out of turn number 4, hits a wheel over the edge and then goes back across the other side, then it could be his car they would hit, so they will have to move it. Brian Herter accelerates up the hill, still has Vassar and Zanardi behind him, and we've completed just over half distance here now at Laguna Seca. Andretti has a view of Patrick Carpentier ahead of him. This is not the battle for the lead by any means, but Andretti's done well. He, remember, was involved in that first corner incident with JJ Leto, and that put him a lap down or so, and he's now in 16th position, so really has made a bit of progress.
Yes, he has. He took advantage of a couple of incidents, one up at the hairpin, of course, with Bobby Rahal, and that moved him up a couple of places. He's also cut past a couple of cars. He's been in this position, I don't know, 100 yards or so behind Patrick Carpentier, and a big long train of cars. Ahead of Carpentier is Ribeiro, ahead of Ribeiro is Papis, ahead of Papis is Fittipaldi, and ahead of Papis is Paul Tracy. Big long train of cars, and Andretti there just keeping station with that pack running very similar lap times.
No change up front though. Brian Herter still our race leader, 46 laps completed, and we want to see whether they can get through to about lap 52. That's the crucial moment. If they can get through that far, then they should be able to get through this race on just one more pit stop. It's going to be tight though. They're going to have to run these engines extremely lean. Perhaps that's why we're seeing slower lap times in the 1:12 at this point in the race, whereas we saw 1:08 in qualifying. So 4 seconds away, a big difference, but they've got the fuel mixture leaned off in constant communication with the pits, and the engineers are playing a bit of a game down there in the pit lane. They don't know what the other teams are doing. They can only go by their own telemetry readings of how much fuel the engine's using, and the drivers having to drive as economically as possible. We're on lap number 47 at the moment. They do need to make it through another 5 or 6 laps to make sure of getting through the rest of this race on a tank fuel of fuel. Now, we mentioned to you a little while ago that Michel Jourdain had pulled off just opposite our commentary position here on the exit of turn number 4. And this was a few moments ago, in fact. Replay, Michel giving up on the car. He's had a tough afternoon, tough year actually for the Mexican. I was certainly hoping for better things from him. He did well on occasions last year, but really hasn't performed particularly well on any occasion this year.
Particularly well towards the end of last year. He was very, very strong here at Laguna Seca, actually. I know he qualified 5th, I think it was, at Fontana. But this season he had an big crash at Homestead in testing before the first race of the season. That really knocked his confidence. Also took a big chunk out of the budget as well. He had a pretty good run last weekend. He finished 10th. That's a career best for Michel Jourdain Jr. And there certainly is a lot of talent in that young man. But he needs to get over the confidence hump. He needs some good results that will build his self-confidence, and just I think he will progress forward from there.
Well, we're just hearing some news about people coming in on lap number 50. I'll tell you what, this is fuel consumption battle, and that's where the engine manufacturers will be hoping they have the edge. Now, earlier in this season, the Ford didn't seem to have quite the same fuel consumption as the Honda, but Ford reckon that they've improved, Cosworth reckon that they've improved that fuel consumption. If they're ever going to get a test, then it's here today.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? They have worked extremely hard on that over the last few months during this season, and there is the Ford Cosworth powered car, the Shell Reynard of Brian Herter, Firestone tyres, and he's running a very, very consistent pace again out of the front of the field, and just gradually stretching that gap. It's up to 3 seconds now over the Reynard Hondas.
Yeah, so it's a stylish drive we're seeing here from Brian Herter, controlling the pace of the race. Look at that, he's had 3-second finishes, but he's still to win his first race. Many people feel once he starts winning, then he could take a lot of stopping. Next year he stays with the Ray Hall team, and he'll be joined by Max Papis.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting combination, and certainly in the conference yesterday after he won the pole here, he was saying, you know, that Dario Franchitti, he's a perfect example of that. He waited quite a while for his first race. He had, 5 poles before he managed to convert one into a win, and then he went out and won the next weekend as well. So Herter is pretty confident that once he gets that first win under the belt, then he will be able to do the same sort of thing. And certainly, you know, to his credit, he hasn't lost confidence at all. He has maintained his self-belief. He has now, in the championship cars, 70 starts to his name. This will be his 71st race. But he knows he can win the races. He knows it's just a question of time.
Yes, that's right. We're right on board now with Adrian Fernandez, also with Ford power on the back of his Reynard chassis. And the likeable Mexican just holding on to 7th position at the moment. He got passed by Alonso Jr. on the restart. There's been no other change for him in this second stint so far. We're coming up to, we're on the 50th lap now. We're hearing that Pruitt, his teammate, may be one of the first to come in. They're looking at maybe coming in on lap 50, lap 51. It means they're going to be very tight to make it through on that one single stop. But of course, they may have run the car a little richer in the early stages of this stint, and in the last stint they may be able to lean the mixture off again. It's going to be tough though. Fernandez continues up the hill and accelerates up through turn number 5, turn 6 that was, and now up towards the corkscrew once again. You can see the marks on the road where the hard braking takes place. A few tyre marks that head off into the gravel areas as well. Fernandez gets through there neatly and tidily. Now, I don't think we're going to see him come in just yet. I reckon we'll see Adrian out there for a couple more laps before he heads down the pit lane. Everybody's still out there at the moment. Brian Herter has crossed the line. You can see everybody's getting ready down there in the pit lane though, and we're about to see a flurry of activity.
Robbie Gordon must have had a quick spin. He just passed Vincenzo Sospiri. He had that extra stop, of course, on the previous round of pit stops, and we've just moved past Sospiri, and I think he had a spin. But there is Scott Pruitt in the pit lane.
Yes, Pruitt makes the first of the stops, and he gets away cleanly again, and that's on lap number 50. That gives him 33 laps to go. That's going to be tight on fuel consumption, but they might be able to just make it if they really lean everything off and he drives as economically as possible. He had to do that last weekend, by the way, and he was holding up a little train of cars in Vancouver. Paul Tracy put the blame on Scott Pruitt a little bit for the fact that he knocked Tony Kanaan out of the race, but I have to say that perhaps that was just a bit of excuse finding.
A bit of creative thinking, I think, from Paul Tracer on that occasion. And there is Suspiri in the pits, and Gilles de Ferran also has been in the pit lane. Actually got out ahead of Scott Pruitt, so a place change there made in the pits.
Right, Vincenzo Suspiri, his second experience of pit stops, champ car style. And they've got a problem. It's taking too long to put the fuel in. And finally, they get it going again. Now then, here's an important stop. Jimmy Vasser is in the pit. Lap number 51 this is, and Jimmy Vasser into the pit. That gives him 32 laps still to do as he goes across the line this time. And it's taking a bit of time, a lot of fuel to put on, and they're trying to get the last little drop of fuel in there. And Vasser having to come in just that lap earlier or so. So there's several other cars in. Michael Andretti into the pits as well here. The Newman Haas crew go to work. Chucks the refreshment bottle out of the way. Every last drop of fuel has to go in the car. They're taking that little bit of extra time, I think, just to make sure it all goes in.
Yeah, really fascinating time now in the pit stops, and it's great stuff to watch these guys. The crews are wonderful to watch. These pit stops are so carefully choreographed. They spend hours practicing them out there this morning. The crew has met them pretty much first in this morning, 7:30. There they were, and here comes Jimmy Vasser past us. He's down to 11th place now, ahead of Adrian Fernandez and Gilles de Ferran, and then Scott Pruitt. They have made their pit stops.
Now, who has not made their stops? Let me tell you, Brian Herter has, I think Brian Herter's just headed into the pits. Yes, Herter's just come in, so has Zanardi. Zanardi comes into his stop as well. Now then, the Ganassi crew go to work. Zanardi angles the car slightly. Good move that, just to try and get as clean an exit as possible.
And a very good last lap by Brian Herter. He pulled out more than a second over Alex Zanardi. That was when Vasser came into the pits the previous lap, and there you saw Herter go past. There is Herter, he had a clear run out of the pits, and there is Zanardi behind him.
But where is Vasser? This is going to be crucial too. Where is Jimmy Vasser? Speed limit now. They get off the speed limit when they get to the last pit, and then they get back onto track, and they're up to full speed. Cold tyres, remember, and these cars are just all over the place on cold tyres. When Danny Sullivan drove Gilles de Ferran's car yesterday, he'd already done a lap, and he still got a huge amount of wheel spin when he changed into third gear, and they really have to be very sensitive with the throttle on this first lap on cold tyres.
They do indeed, and I think we can rely on him doing that. There comes Herter past us with Zanardi not too far behind him, and a good way back to Jimmy Vasser.
I tell you what's interesting though, Frankitti's not come in yet. He's got another lap out of this tank full, and that might mean he can turn up the wick on the last stint. That's going to be an interesting one. He has to come in now, so he has 31 laps remaining, in fact 30 laps remaining by the time he comes out of this pit stop. This could be good news for Franchitti, but of course it depends on this pit stop now. I wonder how fast he was on a clear track as well. What was his last lap time? 11.8? Pretty good. Tony Kanaan also putting in a good time. Change of front wing there as well. They made a little bit of adjustment to that front wing. Clean stop, gets out, rejoins into the pit lane, but has to stay at 60 miles an hour now, all the way to the final pit bay. There's Tony Kanaan behind him in the picture as well. He's just come out of the Tasman pit, and now there goes Herter. Herter goes through the lead. Zanardi's in second position. Franchitti rejoins in third place. It's Vasser who's lost out through all this.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. There's certainly, the later they were able to do, the longer they were able to go before making that pit stop, the better off they seem to be.
Well, what did we talk about earlier on? Herter versus Zanardi. And that's what's going to happen now in the final 30 laps of this race. It's set up beautifully. Look, Kanaan's got ahead of Vasser as well. So Vasser finds himself, down in 5th position. And that's bad news for Jimmy, the race winner here last year. Started 6th, came through to take the win. Great drive. Not on this occasion. He's had bad luck in the pit lane, and he's really going to have his work cut out.
Brilliant stop again by the Tasman team there. Steve Reagan and the boys. That's a fabulous stop. They made him up a position on the first round of pit stops. They made him up to 2 or 3 at least in this round. So great work by those guys. Whoa, there he goes though, locking up the brakes ahead of Jimmy Vasser.
Now does that give Jimmy a chance, or can Tony Kanaan just hold the middle ground? Vasser looking for an opportunity. Of course, Vasser's tyres slightly warmer than Tony's. Oh, look at Vasser made a mistake. You hear him change down on the exit of the corner. He made the mistake. So keen was he to try and close up to Kanaan. So in fact they both didn't get it quite right, and the gap stays the same.
For sure the Honda engine will like that one. It's a pretty strong engine, but they don't like to be changing up when they should be changing down, or vice versa I should say.
And Alonso Jr. lost out to Gilles de Ferran on those stops as well, didn't he? De Ferran has moved up to 7th place, and Alonso Jr. has gone back down to 8th position. In fact, Greg Moore is still ahead of Munster, so no great changes there, just Alonso Jr. not gaining any time on this occasion. So, 54 laps completed. There are 20 watch out for Franchitti, running well in third. Welcome back to the Honda Grand Prix of Monterey, featuring the Texaco Havoline 300. And look at this, Brian Herta and Alex Zanardi, the two men who've raced so hard over the last couple of years, who've had their moments here at Laguna Seca in the past, when Zanardi passed Herta in 96, when Herta squeezed Zanardi out last year, and even this year they've already made contact up at this corner, that corkscrew in practice, and now they're battling for the lead of this race. There are still 27 laps to go, and there are still some fuel consumption worries.
Very much so. They did 30 laps on their last stint. Their first pit stops were made on lap 22. The second stops, for at least for these two contenders, on lap 52. So they did 30 laps. However, well, that means we now have 30 laps to go in this race. But on that previous stint, the first 2 laps, if you remember, were under caution. You lose a lot less fuel under caution. They now have to do 31 laps. I think that's going to be very, very, very close indeed as to whether they need a splash and go.
Well, we shall wait and see. Did you see Herta just then coming out of the last corner? He really got it sideways, controlled it beautifully as they try and fight their way through traffic. And this may be where Zanardi can take advantage through the traffic. They come up past us through turn 4 and the traffic gets well out of the way.
That was Vincenzo Sospiri. Good work by him watching his mirrors there. Dan Gurney would have been on the radio to tell him to get out of the way. He did that, and the leaders go through absolutely unmolested.
Bobby Rahal is behind them, but Bobby lies way down in the order at the moment. He is in 23rd position, down 3 laps after that incident at the corkscrew earlier in this race. There we are at that corner, and still Zanardi chases after Brian Herta. Both of them having to think about saving fuel as well as racing hard.
Very, very much so. They're lapping in the high 12s, 12.9 last time around because there was a slower car in front of them, but the lap before was 12.5 before that, so they're really not running anywhere near close to the maximum potential of these cars. And it really boils down to, does anybody have the guts to turn it up and try and pull away far enough so they can make a pit stop without losing the position? Oh, that's a tough call.
It is, but looking at how close they were in qualifying, I don't think anyone's got that much edge to be able to build up enough lead to make a third stop, but maybe depend on the others running out of fuel at the end. It's going to be so tight once again for these drivers. The engineers will be working out the sums and trying to hope that they can stretch the fuel through to the finish. Remember what happened last week in Vancouver? We had Michael Andretti leading in the later stages, but he was in fuel conservation mode. He'd made an earlier stop, and then you had Franchitti behind, who had more fuel to use. Couldn't find a way past for a while, but in the end, Michael just couldn't do enough to hold Franchitti behind him. Dario made the move, got past, and took the win.
You know, just set me to thinking, actually. I'm just wondering whether Steve Horn has put not a full fuel load on Tony Kanaan's car. That might explain why he was able to move from 10th to 4th. If he didn't put a full fuel load in, he will gain track position, and he will be able to run harder and then try and make that pit stop. And he's gambling on everybody else having to make a pit stop as well. Very interesting strategy, I think, perhaps, from Steve Horn.
Yeah, well, we'll watch that one with interest as the two leaders go down through turn number 2. Bit of clear space just for a moment for Herta, but there is traffic still ahead of them, and they've got to watch out for cars being around. There's Robbie Gordon just passing us. That is the next car, in fact, that they will have to deal with, the Artiera Wells car of Robbie Gordon, but he's about, quite 50 yards or so, a bit more up the road at the moment, so Brian Herta can just settle back into his rhythm. Let's just remind you on the order then. Franchitti is still in 3rd place, and you can see him behind Bobby Rahal in your picture there, just a little bit. Tony Kanaan in 4th, Jimmy Vasser now in 5th, Greg Moore 6th, then Gilles de Ferran 7th, Alonso Jr. is down to 8th place, Fernandez 9th, Pruitt is 10th, Tracy is in 11th place, 12th is Max Papis, then Christian Fittipaldi and Michael Andretti are running one behind the other. That's slightly ironic, as it was Christian's mistake apparently that made Andretti go out in the beginning of the race. Richie Hearn is 15th, Carpentier 16th, then Ribeiro, then it's Alex Barron still running, so is Arndt Meyer, so is Robbie Gordon, but a long way down, soon to be lapped by these two, and then Vincenzo Sospiri, who is indeed a lap down on these two. So beginning to close up a little bit more on Robbie Gordon. Zanardi, for the moment, deciding not to challenge, or is it simply that Brian Herta's going that little bit faster and Zanardi can't do anything about it? Last lap, 11.6, so that's actually quite a good lap time.
Yeah, not better than what's the best lap he's turned actually for quite a long time, until since just before the pit stop he did an 11.3, and I think it's beginning to dawn on the fact that they're probably going to have to make another pit stop.
Yes, may well be the case. And a lot of thinking going on. The drivers also having to think about it a little bit, although most of those decisions are taken by the team. They will be informed, right? We want you into the pits. There's not much time when they're in the cockpit to be worrying about strategies. They've just got to get on with the job of driving the race car. Herta leads them down the hill once again as they come through that long sweeping left-hander, now into turn number 10 and heading down towards that final tight left-hander that takes them past the pit area. Both take a very smooth exit out of there, just using a touch of curb, not sliding the back end, not like a few laps ago when Herta got so sideways. This time much more controlled, and now hard on the brakes down into turn number 2.
It's a very smooth curve on the exit of turn 11 there, the corner in front of the pits, and here we are now. This is turn 3, the next corner. We're down the lowest point of the racetrack here, around where the lake is on your right. There is the Firestone Honda Bridge across to the spectator areas, and through turn 4, our Bruce is up there on the left-hand side of the road. They flash past us, and there's about 25 yards between the pair.
Well, there is Maurice Nunn, Chip Ganassi. Ganassi is on the radio to Alex Zanardi. They've always had this communication. It's always Chip's role to call tactics for Alex. And apparently Chip saying, conserve fuel, but stay with Herta. And Alex's response was, you want me to do both? Well, of course, that's a bit of a challenge at the moment. You can't push hard and conserve fuel, but that's what he's being asked to do, and that's what he's got to try and do. You're watching Alonso Jr. there. He's down in 8th position. Greg Moore and Gilles de Ferran are the 2 cars ahead of him. It doesn't seem to have been able to make as much progress in this latter part of the race. Again, he's in fuel conservation mode as well. Interesting, we're just hearing that Team Rahal are saying they are going to need fuel, they are going to need a gallon, but it's difficult at this stage because teams will say things and not necessarily mean them as well, because that might get picked up by rival teams and nobody quite knows what's going on.
No, that's true, but I think there is no doubt that, we just talked about it, they did 30 laps on the last stint, they need to go 31 to the end of the race, but of that 30, that's one of the Eagles, was it spinning off there?
Yes, it was. Vincenzo Sospiri, it is, coming out of turn 11. And he gets going once again. No yellow. When they looked at a spinning car, you sort of think, oh, they might go yellow. That could change the tactics here. But in fact, no need. It's still green. We've only had the one full course caution in this race so far. Everything else has been cleared up with just a local yellow flag. There is Zanardi still charging after Brian Herta. There is still 21 laps to go, and everybody thinking about their fuel.
Yeah, fascinating. Real game of cat and mouse here, I think, this afternoon. And okay, there hasn't been an awful lot of overtaking, certainly not as much as we are used to in the FedEx Championship Series, perhaps. But there's plenty of strategy, plenty of intrigue, and this wonderful battle. Herta and Zanardi, the 2 men who have dominated this event really over the last 3 years. And the race is a long way from being over yet.
It is. Herta from Zanardi, then Franchitti, Canard, Vassar, Moore, de Ferran, Alonso Jr., Fernandez, and Scott Pruitt, the top 10 here. Welcome back to our coverage from Laguna Seca, and you're watching the driver who's just made up one position. Tony Kanaan is up into 3rd position, and he got past Dario Franchitti last lap around, and this was how he did it, just closing up behind, and took the advantage as they came down towards turns 3 and 4. Whoa. In fact, Dario running that bit wide, and that allowed Tony straight through. Yeah, locked up the rear brakes there, did Dario Franchitti, slid wide. Thank you very much, says Tony Kanaan, and there is Gilles de Ferran in the pits. Yeah, that's interesting. He's decided he's going to have to make an extra stop, and he wants to get it over and done with as early as possible. Sospiri is in as well. He reckons there's a problem with the car. We saw him spin a few moments ago, and they're just trying to sort the car out. Some sort of braking problem by the look of it, the way that they're checking the actuation of the brakes there. But Sospiri running towards the back, so it doesn't really make a great deal of difference. Michael Andretti, he's running 14th, just 1 place behind teammate Christian Fittipaldi, but there's around about 2 seconds between those 2 on the road. You can see Michael's progress. At the start he was 12, then he had the contact with JJ Leto, dropped him to 26th place, lap 16, and he's worked up to 14th, but he's got a bit stuck here now. Gilles de Ferran, meanwhile, has rejoined in 16th place, so Andretti now up to 13th, and about, well, I'd say 20 seconds or so behind him on the racetrack. Having made that pit stop is Gilles de Ferran. Up front, back into the battle for 4th place now. Jimmy Vassar in the red Target car, now closing up a bit more. to Dario Franchitti. And Vasser looking to try and get back up with the leaders. He had a slight refueling problem, which is what cost him time, and that's why he lost out on that last round of pit stops. But now, with a chance perhaps of closing up behind Dario Franchitti in the battle for 4th position. Down in the pits though, the worries, the concerns, the calculations on the computers as they try and work out whether they're going to be able to make it through this race on what is remaining.
Yeah, kind of back their pace off a bit.
Right.
How much fuel do you need to find? Well, we're under a gallon what we need to find, so Brian's working really hard. You know, we still got 20 laps left here to find it, so I think he can do it.
This harkens back to like Rio de Janeiro, where we had a great fuel race down there.
I was just talking about that with Bob's engineer, and we want to make up for that this time.
All right, we'll wait and see what it's like. That's what's going on right now at the Herta camp. They need less than a gallon.
Gary Gerald with race engineer Ray Leto. Let's hear from Jan Beekers now.
Alex saving enough fuel.
I'll tell you, we're trying to save fuel. We're as close as we've ever been.
And you can see that obviously every lap that he goes by, he wants to see exactly what the fuel counter says. How is that last lap? Are you going to make it?
The last lap he did was perfect on the mileage.
We
okay,
got a car
off the track.
Yeah, we got a car off. It is Vincenzo Sospiri. He went off early, went back out onto the track, and now he's off for all. I wonder if it was a brake problem because he's just lost it down there at turn number 2. And we are hearing it's going to be a full course yellow. It is. God, this is what everybody needed, just to try and get through this race without having to make an extra pit stop. This is exactly what they need. And look at the discussions. Maurice Nunn there in the middle, Chip Ganassi on the right-hand side. Heated discussions going on down there in pit lane as this yellow could be the difference.
Yeah, do we need a splashing gear? Do we take the risk? Do we come onto pit lane? The answer is no. They stay out on the racetrack, and they're going to gamble. They're going to hope that this yellow is long enough to give them that margin that they need to get to the finish. Look, he's already backed way off the throttle as Brian Herta, and there behind him, of course, the yellows and flags are out, and there is the beach car of Sospiri.
Yeah, that's right, as you say, Jeremy. Look, they're nowhere near the pace car. They're taking it so slowly, desperately trying to keep some fuel. Now, different tactics for Bobby because, of course, he's a long way down anyway.
Yeah, and also, in actual fact, on that same lap, he went well wide in front of us here on the dirt on turn 4 and picked up a whole load of gravel on his tyres. So I think he's out of contention. I think he's already 3 laps down, and he's just playing it safe there and get that fresh tyres on the Miller Lite car.
It's likely that a few cars might run out of fuel towards the end of this race. Papis decides to come in. I know he told me earlier that they were very tight on fuel, and perhaps the Toyota's still a little more thirsty than the other engines out there in the series. So Papis comes into the pits, makes an extra stop, and Brian Herta leads the field round as slowly as possible. They have a setting, they have a fuel setting for this situation when they're behind the pace car. They turn the adjustment in the cockpit to the pace car setting, if you like, which is to try and be as economical as possible, and they get about twice the consumption that they would be getting under full race conditions. So Alex Zanardi in 2nd position. Of course, he is our champion. He won the championship last time out in Vancouver, the 2nd time in succession, and the 3rd for the team. For Alex Zanardi, it's been a brilliant time here in the United States, and Jan Beekers caught up with him this weekend to talk to him about that championship.
Recently CART crowned its 1998 FedEx champion. This 2-time champion knows the winning combination comes from many ingredients.
It takes the team, it takes everybody together, and Zanardi is one of the ingredients of the package that won the last 2 championships.
But to be the best, you have to be willing to do what the other driver won't. From his infamous pass in '96 at Laguna to this year's drive at Long Beach, Zanardi showed the simple philosophy that makes him the best.
That's what I learned from my dad, you know, never gave up. And I knew the disadvantage I had to clear was huge. But I thought, hey, I got not much to lose. If I can just keep going harder and harder and harder and don't lose time passing people, I may gain a lot on the leaders, and that's what I did.
Zanardi is a humble man who appreciates the opportunity he's been given.
I mean, look at me. I'm a living example of that. I came here with nothing other than my anger, my desire to do well, and I made it.
Today, Alex sits on top of the world, from winning a championship to the birth of their first son, Nicolo.
It's incredible, and I'm on the top of the world right now. I can't wait to to see him again and to hold him. It's such a joy that gets you, and I think if you haven't been a father, you don't know that.
A father-son combination is not new to kart, as Alex ponders the thoughts of his son's future.
I hope that that he's a little bit more like his mom, because if it's like me, he's gonna make me lose a lot of sleep in the night.
Well, Alex Zanardi, interesting comment there, and yes, I can imagine that Alex has caused his mum some worries in the past. He lies in second place at the moment behind Brian Herta, and both of them driving around very, very cautiously and steadily, trying to save fuel as this race continues. And we're into the final 14 laps now, the final showdown here for Brian Herta versus Alex Zanardi at Laguna Seca. We've seen all the incidents in the past. How this one's going to be called, no one knows yet. Herta will be so determined to stay in front, and Zanardi will just love the chance to try and squeeze past. Well, just behind Brian Herta there. Of course, don't forget Tony Kanaan and Dario Franchitti aren't too far behind them either.
Not at all. They are right there, and we've got to what we've got 14 laps to go as they come past this time, and it's going to be quite a battle. These yellow flags are exactly what these guys needed at the front of the field. This is the cushion they required. They ran, as we said earlier on, they ran 2 laps under caution during their previous stint of fuel, and they were able to get 30 laps maximum out of that tank. They were asked to get 31 laps on this stint of fuel, and there is Zanardi just lining up the tyres there, trying to get some of that. You can see the build-up rubbing off that right front wheel as he picked it up to speed there.
Now we're going to take a look at what's happened in the past with these three at Laguna Seca. 1996 was the famous one when Zanardi cut the corner. If he does that this time, he'll be in trouble. You're not allowed to cut the corner anymore. Last year, Herta squeezed him out, and Zanardi ended up on the dust and couldn't get past. In fact, Herta was to drop back later. And then this year in practice, this is what happened up at the corkscrew.
Yeah, on Friday morning, we were right there. We saw that. It was right in front of us, Ben, wasn't it? And it was after the checkered flag. And Zanardi admitted afterwards, yeah, red mist there. I really didn't need to make that pass, but he was actually trying to get some data. They put fresh tyres on, they hadn't got a complete lap in, and he was trying to go as fast as he can so they could get that telemetry and get the readouts from the onboard systems there to find out how quick he could go, and that's why he made that pass. But he did concede that it was not necessary at all, and at the same time, of course, this was that passing in 96 from onboard Alex Zanardi. You can see there, hasn't opened back in the corner, there he goes bouncing over the curbs, and as Ben said, if he does that now, he will be called in for a stop-and-go penalty. If he does it on the last lap, of course, there won't be time for a stop-and-go, but there will be a penalty nonetheless.
Yes, although if he did that, yeah, that's a great poster, isn't it? But if he did that, if he went past in that situation, oh, there's one of the players' cars, and that is Greg. That's Greg Moore, who's pulled over to the side of the road there, and so this yellow's going to last a little bit longer, I should think, while they pick that car up. This is a bit disappointing. Just waiting for this race to rerun. I tell you what, though, they're going to be able to run flat out, which will be fun as we go towards the checkered flag. We'll have to see, expecting to see Tony Kanaan come in, mind you, at some point, although maybe even he will be all right.
Well, yeah, that'll be interesting. Will he be able to stay out there? We'll see.
So, stay with us. The climax to this race is about to build up. Herta and Zanardi. Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage here from Monterey, the Laguna Seca racetrack, building up a wonderful climax again as Brian Herta leads Alex Zanardi round. There will be 11 laps to go at the end of this one, and the green flag will wave as they come round. Now then, somebody there building up some speed. Tony Kanaan, that was, who nearly ran into the back of Alex Zanardi as he accelerated up the hill. Watch out for making mistakes on this. Oh, there's been a shunt underneath the bridge there as they warm up. Drama here as we await the green flag. There's been an accident. Alex Barron is involved. There's been an accident again as we approach a green flag. This happened last weekend in Vancouver, and for some reason 2 cars have got together as they've climbed the hill as they approach the green flag, but not for another 2 miles nearly.
No, that's very strange. There is Alex Barron. He takes the steering wheel. If he's out of that car, the car embedded in the tyre barriers there by the bridge, and it was Helio Castro-Neves in which he came into contact, and well, there we are. Of course, the yellow will now be extended. We were going to go green this time around. Of course, that can't be the case now. That car parked against the Eagle Toyota, parked against the barriers there. Great shame for those guys, but brilliant news for these guys. Except, I don't know, there's Scott Remke, their general manager of Team Rahal, taking a sip of water there. This is going to get very tense indeed. You know, now they should have plenty of fuel to get to the finish, and they're going to be able to turn up the wick, turn up the power, and there is Helio Castroneves without a rear wing on the car.
Yeah, I think he was involved in that incident with Alex Barron. It looks as though damage is done, but Helio Castroneves there in the pits.
He was a couple of laps down actually to the field, and Barron was behind him as they were coming out around there under green, so one has to presume for whatever reason that Alex Barron ran into the back of Helio Castroneves.
So the rookies, their battle has been going on throughout this year so far. Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan have been the two main players. Let's take a look at the rookies in the series. Helio Castroneves, the Indy Lights runner from last year, he didn't win the championship, but he came close. In the early part of this season, he had the edge over Tony Kanaan in terms of point scoring. But Tony Kanaan, the man who did win the Indy Lights series last year, as teammate to Helio Castroneves, has in more recent races begun to pick up some more points. JJ Leto is another of the so-called rookies this year, even though he's got plenty of GT, sports car and Formula One experience. And an impressive job has also been done by Alex Barron, driving for All-American Racers, and the man who led in Vancouver last week in an impressive showing.
Yeah, that was the first time that Eagle had led a race, in actual fact, since Watkins Glen in 1981. That's an awful long time. And Barron, he took advantage, there you can see the rookie point standings after 15 races, and Kanaan certainly has a handy lead this afternoon, and he's running in third place. If he can extend that, if he can maintain that, he will extend that lead. There is Helio Castroneves out of the car, and talking down the right-hand side, you can see to Emerson Fittipaldi there, Emerson in the blue shirt shaking his left hand. And a great disappointment for those guys, but certainly Alex Barron last week, that was great to see that Eagle out in front of the field. It was some good fuel strategy or good pit strategy that got him to the front, but as Ben said earlier on, he was running awfully well there. He said, I think it was a 13th fastest lap in that race, and that shows again the improvements that Toyota has been making steadily this season.
Field summary. There's Alonso Jr. As you can see from the graphic, he's in 6th position. Of course, he's gained one with the loss of Greg Moore. And Greg's had an unlucky run of races in recent times, hasn't he? And had an accident in Vancouver last time out when he ran over the back of PJ Jones. He had a gearbox problem when he was in the lead in Road America time before that. He had an accident in the pits in mid-Ohio when he was up front. And that all stems from the last good result he had, which was from Michigan, when he actually won that race and that amazing last dash run to the checkered flag. But since that race, Greg Moore really hasn't had a good run at all. Also concerns we're just hearing about the amount of rubber pickup on these tyres from going around so slowly.
Yeah, well, we saw, didn't we, just a couple of laps ago from the onboard camera of Alex Zanardi when he picked up the pace coming past the start-finish line. You can see all that rubber flying off the right front tyre there, and certainly there are a lot of marbles out there. This tyre war between Goodyear and Firestone, the tyres are pretty sticky. They're good for 50 or 60 miles, and that is it. Look at Herder there laying down some rubber.
Yeah, he wants to clear up those rear tyres. Remember what Zanardi did when they were approaching the green in Vancouver? He lost it. I don't think he's going to be quite so carried away this time.
No, he wasn't very impressed with himself last weekend. It was he was somewhat embarrassed, I think it was, we've heard to say in the post-race interview, that he did spin under yellow. Of course, he still came back and finished pretty strongly, didn't he?
Yeah, and ended up wrapping up the championship, of course, as well. But that tyre pickup is a problem. I actually had the chance to go around in one of the pace cars earlier on the weekend, and that is a car that runs at all the tracks. They don't run it on the road at all. It's transported to each and every racetrack. That had rubber pickup on it from Vancouver, and it was still throwing it off. You could hear the noise that this thing was making as it threw the rubber off after a couple of laps around this track, and it just makes such a big difference to the handling of the car.
Yeah, it certainly does, and these guys are certainly going to have a hard time getting that pickup off the tyres before they get back to green. Of course, the first corner they have to contend with after the green flag is turn 2. As you Ben said earlier on, turn 1 is just a kink at the top of the hill on the front straight between the start-finish line and what is now turn 2. And they're coming down the hill here now. That is turn 9. The pace car lights are off. I think we're going to. They're still flashing, weren't they? That's right. So we'll have at least one more lap of green flag, and that will leave us with 8 to go. So we're building up to a pretty exciting climax. And fuel now is not going to be a problem whatsoever, at least not for the major contenders.
No, that's right. They are going to be able to run flat out, which is good news for us as well. They should make for an enjoyable finale to this Laguna Seca race. There we are on board with Adrian Fernandez running in 7th, and that battle for 2nd in the championship, remember, still being fought. And well, we've got quite a few key players up there. Franchitti is running in 4th, Vassar is 5th. He's holding on to 2nd in the series at the moment, but Fernandez is up there in 7th place. So I think that battle for 2nd is going to go all the way to the wire in Fontana. There are still 3 more races after this one, which is still a little unusual for the kart crews because they're used to this being the season finale here.
That's right, this has always been the traditional place to round out the season. All sorts of parties down on the beach and on the some great places to have a good fling here at Laguna Seca and Monterey area. But no, as you say, 3 more races to go and plenty to play for. There's $500,000 up for 2nd place in the championship, and it goes down there into $150,000 increments down to 10th place. So there is a lot of money at stake still here in this series.
Right, well, you can see the tension on the Shell crew of Team Rahal. They know it's not a fuel problem now, but the question is, look at that. See that lump of rubber? That was a good demonstration. Big lump of rubber came flying off the back of Christian Fittipaldi and bounced off Michael's helmet. And that's just an example of how much rubber pickup there is on these tyres. And don't be surprised to see people spinning on the restart, either at the restart when the green comes out or out of the last corner, or perhaps down into turn number 2 where there's a safety truck just pulling out of the way at the moment. Hopefully,
especially the jet dryer. I think they're trying to blow some of these marbles out of the way. We can see across from our vantage point here, across the valley, across the lakes, and across all the concession stands here, that the blower is out there at turn 2 and trying to get some of these marbles out of the way. It's actually on the outside of the track and blowing the rubber nicely onto the racing groove on the inside.
Yeah.
No, actually, it's pretty strong, that jet dryer, and it does blow the rubber right off the other side of the racetrack.
So the pace car light's still on. It looks as though these drivers are going to have to do another lap under yellow, and then perhaps they'll be let go.
I think that's a pretty good move by Carter, I have to say. I mean, the yellow is out. Fuel is now not an issue at all. You might as well try and get out there and try and get the track as clear as you can. There is the jet dryer. There it is. Well, there's the jet. There was a dryer in front of it. And it's a Toyota truck, of course. That's the official truck of CART. And I think it's probably Bob Raschke driving that truck. He'll be having the time of his life out there. And a couple of laps. He always loves the opportunity to get out there on the racetrack. But I think it's a good move. They'll try and get this track as clean as they possibly can and make it as good a race for everybody, fans, drivers, crews, and us, and you guys at home.
Yeah, let's see what the race brings us. There, down at this side of the track is Vincenzo Sospiri, having photographs taken with the fans and joining in the American experience. These drivers are always much more accessible perhaps than their counterparts in Europe. There are much more opportunity for people to get autographs, to get pictures taken. And there's a look at the crowd enjoying, lapping up the sunshine and enjoying what should be a brilliant finish to the race.
Yeah, not many spare seats there, I don't think, in that grandstand, and this is going to be pretty exciting. Here they come, and they're just coming past the jet dryer there. There is the dryer going past on the right-hand side of the track in front of our vantage point here, directly in front of us now, and Herta there still trying to keep that temperature up, keep those tire pressures up, so that when it does finally go green, he can get a good clean jump, and that jump is going to be crucial. We've seen how difficult it is to pass, but certainly it is possible, and particularly when fuel isn't an issue, they can use the overtake button. It just gives them, it richens up the mixture even more to give them maximum power, and maybe they can make that pass. We'll see.
This is going to be fun. Tony Kanan's in there as well. Of course, he's still looking for his first podium finish in the championship. Franchitti, the twice winner of the last 2 races, looking for his hat-trick, and he won't have given up yet, starting from 4th position. And now they've all got to get position. Look at the tension down there in the pits. There's a bit of a laugh, a nervous laugh from one of the crew members on Zanardi's team as they head towards green.
Nothing to lose for those guys. Of course, the championship is tied up. Zanardi just wants to win as many races as he can.
Yeah, well, can he do it? Can he get past Herta, or is Herta going to have enough for him on this occasion? Here we go then, Brian Herta and Alex Zanardi. Herta really accelerated down the hill hard there and gets away very quickly. Watch those cold tyres, watch for cars getting a bit sideways as they come out of that last turn, turn number 11. Good restart that from Herta. He did catch Zanardi napping just a little bit, and that's the initial worry out of the way. A restart, always a great opportunity for a pass, as we saw Alonso Jr. make a pass earlier on, and indeed Zanardi himself, but this time, oh, there's an off down in turn 2, Carpentier, Pruitt, Gilles de Ferran. Oh no, what a shame. That means the yellows are going to be out again, surely, and only 7 laps to go. What a tragedy it would be if this race finishes under yellow flags. I hope they can get those cars cleared away as fast as possible, but it has gone full course yellow, and they have to hold position now. Full course yellow. Zanardi drops back a little bit. There's nothing they can do about it. They have to hold station, and they can see that yellow flag being given at all marshal points. And what a great pity. I just wonder how fast they can get those cars out of the way at turn number 2.
And here's a replay, and you can see under braking there, Pruitt is hit from behind, or apparently by Gilles de Ferran. They were side by side coming down to the corner. They spin, and Carpentier, an absolutely innocent victim in that one.
Yeah, nowhere he could do anything. De Ferran was trying to get down the inside of Pruitt, and it looked to me as though Pruitt tried to squeeze him a little too late, really. De Ferran was there. He should have just given him a bit more room and fought it out in the latter part of the corner, but unfortunately out of the race, and Gilles seems to be going through that a lot at the moment. In Vancouver, he had rear brake failure right at the end of the race, which took him out after a pretty good drive up through the field. So he's just having a tough time this season as the wrecker trucks get down there, try and get those cars out of the way as quickly as they can.
Yeah, you can see there on board Zanardi, there is Carpentier waving to the crew. I'm not quite sure what he's waving at. He's pretty animated about something, but looks like his race is done. He's clambering out of the car.
Yeah, that's right. I think he was hoping perhaps to get back out again, but there's really not a great deal of points, I suppose, and no doubt the CART officials want to get that mess cleared up as fast as they can. 6 laps to go. There'll be 5 laps to go at the end of this one. We know that there'll be at least one more lap after that behind pace car, so there's going to be a minimum here of 4 laps. Or a maximum, I should say, of 4 laps under green, and that's if they really get on with the program down there.
They've got 3 cars to get out of the way, and 2 of them are pretty deep in that gravel trap there in turn 2, and oh, what a shame that was. But as you called it right there, Ben, you did suggest there may be an accident at the first corner, and that's exactly what happened. And a bold move there by both of those two, really, de Ferran and Pruitt. You see, really, de Ferran does have appalling luck this year. I don't know whether it's his fault or not. Kind of inconclusive, I'd say, from that evidence. But certainly, as you said, last week, it was the very last lap. He had a rear brake failure, and he's had a couple of late engine blow-ups, and you can see there the CART safety team there working on Pruitt's car to get that one out of the way. And there's a couple of drivers walking back. That is one of the... That's Suspiria. I think he must have been down there watching.
Yeah, he must have been watching down at turn 2, and he's still on his way back from his parked car, but Pruitt there doesn't look very happy about life, does he, after that little incident? Forget Pruitt moving teams next year, going to Arciero Wells, and leaving the Patrick Race team. PJ Jones coming in to replace him at that team. Now we're going to take a little bit of a look at some of the highlights of this race as we wait for it to go green. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it's going to go green. Highlights of the race, starting off from the beginning. Brian Herter made an excellent getaway. Alex Zanardi tried to slot up, but it was Vassar moving into second place, Franchitti in third, and Greg Moore in fourth.
Yeah, great start there by Jimmy Vassar to move that one position. There was the first of the incidents there. Michael Andretti here is way off on the outside, hit by JJ Leto, who had in turn been hit by Andretti's teammate Christian Fittipaldi.
Andretti rejoined and is in the race. In fact, he lies in 10th place as we stand at the moment. Then Richie Hearn saw this incident occur ahead of him as Bobby Rahal tried to squeeze past Max Papis. It didn't come off. Hearn somehow managed to avoid him and managed to continue, but that dropped Rahal a long way down the order. And now this latest incident as de Ferran and Pruitt got together, and poor old Carpentier just got collected up in the mess, and all 3 cars deposited in the sand on the exit there on the outside of turn number 2. There's our summary of positions so far. Tracy's moved up a bit, hasn't he, through the order? He's now up to 8th position.
Yeah, he took advantage of that little melee, because he was ahead of it already, wasn't he? He'd moved up there before the last before this round of rash of pit stops, and Carpentier then is out of the race. Bobby Rahal there is running. He is 3 laps down. He had that incident up at the corkscrew, of course, and it took him a long time to get refired. Poor old Bobby doesn't have much luck with being push started. Remember that race early on in the season at Long Beach? He was stuck at the hairpin there for a couple of laps as well. Poor old Bobby. They're not doing him any favours on his last ride, are they? It's a shame, because he's been very competitive this season, and he had a pretty good car this weekend, even if he didn't qualify well. He was back in 19th, which is actually his worst starting position here at Laguna Seca in 17 tries, but he's won this race 4 times. He wasn't really expecting perhaps to win the race, but he certainly had hopes to get it up amongst the top 5.
Well, I can just tell you that I can see Carpentier's car being towed away, and I can see the other cars have been cleared from that area.
Yeah, Pruitt's car they actually brought down here in turn 4 and took that away into the paddock, so that's out of the way. De Ferran's car is pretty much off the racing groove now, so I would suggest perhaps one more lap and we'll be ready to go green. There is another car on the hook. I think that is Patrick Carpentier's player's car, Ben.
Yes, it is, and that's the last car to be moved away. So that would give us, well, there's De Ferran's, but hopefully, I wonder if that, I suppose they have got to move that, haven't they? Before...
Yeah, but that shouldn't take too long. That should take maybe 30 seconds or so to get out of the way. And with a bit of luck, within another 2 or 3 corners of the pace car, he'll be able to turn off those lights, and we'll have a 4-lap dash to the finish.
Let's go down to the pit lane and see what's going on in the Ganassi pit. We've got a chance. There's the onboard view with Alex Zanardi. Joe Montana is down there, part team owner, of course, of the Ganassi outfit. Let's go down to the pits and hear from him.
2-minute drill. Joe Montana, what call do you play right now?
Well, you know, Brian's been running well, but the guy behind him has been running well too. So I think it's going to be a great finish. Looking at it the way it's been, you know, I got to go with our guy, of course. You know, he doesn't have a lot to prove now. He's already won it, but he's not that kind of a driver, which I'm sure everyone will soon see.
Well, he's not that kind of driver, and I know Joe's not that kind of quarterback.
From one sports star to another, as Joe Montana keeps an eye on his charge, Alex Zanardi.
And next to Joe Montana there, pretty poker face, I would say, was Maurice Nunn in the middle, and Chip Ganassi on the right-hand side of the screen of that timing tower as we looked at it. And there is De Ferran's car out of the way, and I think we'll just have one more lap under the caution. But we're already coming up to complete lap 80 now. We're on lap 80 now. If we don't get the green this time around, it'll be the end of lap 81. That'll be 2 laps to go.
2 laps, wow, that's really cutting it fine, isn't it? 2 laps, just some 5 miles to decide the out year's Laguna Seca race. And you got 4 drive, well, no, I can't say 4, you got a whole lot of them in there really trying. Frankitti's 4th, Vassar's 5th. I mean, he's going to try something if anybody is. And there's the queue coming down the hill.
There is the pace car still out on the track, so it will be a 2-lap dash to the checkered flag. And I say Tony Kanar's looking pretty good at this stage. He's in 3rd place. You can see him hanging back there even now on this with 1 lap to go before we go green. And I'm sure Steve Horn will be saying to him, if I were you, I'd settle for 3rd and leave a little bit of a gap when you come down the hill. Yep. Let those 2 sort themselves out, and you make sure that you keep the 4th place car, Dario Franchitti, behind you. And if anything comes up amongst those 2 at the front of the field, then you're sitting pretty. And if not, you've still got a podium position, and that would be great news for Tony Kanaan. He really has deserved it. He's driven absolutely brilliantly this year. A couple of bits of bad luck, as we saw last week in Vancouver. That incident when he would surely have finished at the very least 3rd. He was running behind Scott Pruitt, who finished in 2nd place and was clearly much faster at that stage in the race.
Bit of dirt on the inside there, so they're going to have to watch that as they come down to turn 2 on the restart. And as you say, the chances of Herta and Zanardi surviving these 2 laps might play into Tony Kanaan's hands a touch. Franchitti behind Vassar, then Unser, then Fernandez, Tracy, Fittipaldi, Andretti in 10th. Richie Hearn 11th. Max Papis is heading for another points score here. So that would be good news for Toyota. They've been consistently in the points the last 5 or 6 races, so that would certainly help.
That is Jeanette Herta, Brian's wife there. They have a young baby daughter, Callie, and she will be probably with her grandma, I think, probably down in the paddock area here. And certainly a lot of the Herta clan is here this weekend. His father Tom, a big supporter, of course, through his racing career. He'll be biting his nails, I know. He's a pretty nervous father at the best of times. And now just 2 laps to go, and that man Alex Zanardi on his tail.
It's nerve-wracking stuff, isn't it? Wow, fantastic. Brian Herta's had such a tremendous record here at Laguna Seca. In every kind of car that he's raced, he's always been superbly fast, but he's still got to beat his nemesis, Alex Zanardi, who has just taken the win from him on so many occasions over the last few years, and particularly here at Laguna in 1996. Here we go then, ready for the restart. The 2 of them accelerate hard down the hill. Herta this time not catching Zanardi unawares quite so much, and they're pretty much together. It's only 2 laps to go, remember, as they come across the line this time. Who's going to make it? Who's going to make the mistakes? Who's going to keep it clean? And are we going to see a passing manoeuvre in the last 2 laps? 5 miles to go, and Zanardi heads down towards turn number 2, trying to find a way to get past Brian Herta. Tucks in close behind. These 2 have opened up a little gap over Tony Kanaan, perhaps, as you said.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. I think, but Kanaan has a little bit of breathing space over this 4th place car of Dario Franchitti, but this is what the race is all about. It's Brian Herta against Alex Zanardi.
Yeah, the hill towards turn number 6, the blind corner, a very difficult corner, the corner that Dario Franchitti went off at during qualifying on Friday, just after he'd set provisional pole. Herta a little wide,
yeah,
but he held it.
Zanardi got a run on him there. Now we'll see Herta here protecting the inside line. Can Zanardi make it around the outside? No.
Yes, Herta doing the sensible thing there. He knew he'd made a little error in the corner before, and he wasn't going to allow Zanardi any space, not like in 1996, and this time he keeps that inside line covered. Zanardi's going to have to find somewhere else to overtake, and he's only got just over a lap to do it. Herta looking for his first ever race win. They'll get the white flag this time.
And everybody in the grandstand in front of us is absolutely on their feet, and they're all cheering for their local man, Brian Herta. He's got a good lead there, 0.6 of a second as it came across the start-finish line. Just 2 miles to go.
Herta, can he hold on? He's got through turn 2 safely. That's one of the potential overtaking spots. I don't think Zanardi's going to have the answer for him this time. He uses the curb on the exit. It's not enough. Herta has opened up that little bit of an advantage. Everybody cheering, waving Herta on as he comes past the grandstand here. On board now with Alex Zanardi. What can Alex Zanardi do? He's got to use everything in his armory to find a way past.
Everybody was cheering and waving here. There we go through turn 6. Now comes the corkscrew. 2 years ago, this was Herta's downfall. But no way is Zanardi close enough this time.
No, too far back, but Herta, even so, takes a slightly defensive line just in case, and Zanardi cannot get close enough. There are just 2 corners to go, and Herta's heading for his first race win. The last corner is a possible overtaking place. Is Zanardi going to try it? Herta defends the inside. Zanardi goes wide, looks for the good exit. There's a long run to the flag here. Can he get on the power earlier? It's not enough. Brian Herta's going to win his first race in the Champ Car Series. He holds off Alex Zanardi, and it's Herta who wins at last. Brilliant story for Brian Herta. Zanardi did his best, but he just couldn't do it. Kanaan takes his best result in 3rd, and Franchitti finishes in 4th place. And Herta has done it at last. Fantastic stuff.
It had to come here at Laguna Seca Raceway. I think this is the track at which Brian has shone. He's very much a favourite here all the way through his career. The crowd here absolutely wild. It's great to see. They're waving their hands, they're waving their flags, they're waving their shirts. It's great to see, and boy has he deserved this win.
Yeah, and Franchitti comes alongside to congratulate him as well, and this means so much to Brian Herta. And he's won it from pole, he's done it from start to finish, he led every lap, he's done it in style.
And I think this is a 99th race since Team Rahal last won a race. That was Nazareth in 92 with Bobby himself.
So they're the results then, looking on down the list. Some great performances from Kanaan in 3rd. Alonso Jr. took 6th place. Paul Tracy recovered to 8th. Michael Andretti did get some points for a 10th place finish on this occasion. That 2nd place battle in the championship is good for Dario Franchitti, who scored a bit more than Vassar, but only a few points more, and Vassar will hold on to 2nd place in the series for the moment. But the story of today is all about Brian Herta, who's taken his first ever win in the Champ Car Series, and he beat Alex Zanardi to do it. Thanks for joining us this time. Join us again next time. From Ben Edwards and Jeremy Shaw, it's goodbye from Laguna Seca.